This is the Defenders on TV podcast industries. We're back with Spider-Noir, episode 3, Double Cross.
You must think I'm out of touch.
Money, power, not a lot of it going around right now, yet here you are in a castle tower. That's a testament to what you've built.
Must be nice, not having to look over your shoulder. So unconcerned with your possessions, because you have so little.
You'd be surprised at how much people will fight for what little they have.
Do you know what entropy is, Reilly? The universe trends to disorder. Can't help itself. All you can do is fight to keep the chaos from your door. But like I said, you're lucky. You don't have anything anyone wants to take.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to TV Podcast Industries. We are continuing our chat all about the black and white and very colourful Spider-Noir with episode 3, Double Cross. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Le Arachnids Noir, come on in. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. I'm one of your other hosts, John.
We're going to keep that going for this week as well, are we?
Why not?
Absolutely. We already talked about it being Blackadder, so I have nothing else to say.
No, I think we should move on into our public service announcements before we get into our spoiler-filled discussion of this third episode of Spider-Noir.
Absolutely, yes. We're covering 2 episodes per week of Spider-Noir. We want to hear your thoughts on every episode as we go, so you can send them in to us to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. You can also join us on our Discord, the details of which are in the show notes right here, or you can find us by just looking for TV Podcast Industries, and you can share your thoughts on each of the episodes as we go.
You can subscribe as well, fellow Defenders, over on tvpodcastindustries.com on any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. Mm-hmm. So please share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the love.
I wonder, should it be thwipping or swinging podcast, since we're kind of in the 30s, 20s, 30s kind of timeline?
Maybe, I guess so.
Swinging 30s.
Well, I thought you were meaning because sharing the podcast is, of course, whipping the podcast.
No, that'd be good, though. I like it. But no. Let's get into the details for this third episode of Spider-Noir, John.
Indeed. Derek, who gave us what, where, when, how, and why?
Well, the showrunner of the show is Oren Uziel, as we mentioned last time. The episode here was written by Megan Liao and Steve Lightfoot. Megan Liao, this is her first writing credit. She's a staff writer on all 8 episodes of the show, but we have mentioned Steve Lightfoot many, many times, and particularly here on TV Podcast Industries, because the first show we ever covered on this podcast was with John and the wonderful Irene, covering Hannibal season 3, and Steve Lightfoot was the co-showrunner over there, as an executive producer on Hannibal, and wrote almost every single episode of that very season,
yes,
John, which is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved covering Hannibal. It was just such a shame I didn't cover it for seasons 1 and 2.
I know. And it was a great show with yourself and Irene covering it as well. I liked it so much I eventually joined for the last couple of episodes because it was so good.
Exactly.
But also Steve Lightfoot, we know him as the showrunner for the significantly better Netflix Punisher TV show as well.
Indeed.
The showrunner for those 2 full seasons. I kind of wish he'd come back for that one-off special that they did this year, even though the person responsible for that, as well as John Bernthal, the showrunner for that, also had great credentials.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah. Look, I think it's better.
It could have been better.
I think it is better not to dwell on the past.
Let's not. But this episode was directed by Nzingha Stewart, who also directs the next episode of the show. She's directing absolutely loads at the moment, including the Burbs TV show, and directed the first 2 episodes of James Patterson's Cross on Prime Video. It's on to the 2nd season of that show. I think we just watched the first couple of episodes of that a couple of months ago. I love James Patterson's Alex Cross. The books were really, really good. So we sat down to watch that a couple of weeks ago. Really great opening. So some good credentials there from Nzingha Stewart as well.
Yeah, absolutely loved checking out Cross on Prime Video, and need to kind of get back looking at that because we just kind of stopped watching it for no real reason.
The real
just because
reason.
stuff came up.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody knows the real reason. If you listen to TV podcast industries, we were covering about 6 shows all at the same time, or at least 6 episodes a week for a while. So yes, let's continue on with our chat about this episode for this week, Spider-Noir, episode 3, Double Cross. John, do you want to give them your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. Ben Reilly is hired by Silvermane to find who leaked his liquor transfer. Ben's first port of call is to the hospital to investigate the officers injured in the sting operation. He finds out that the information came directly from Mayor Morris. Meanwhile, Robbie Robertson goes to question Lonnie Lincoln about his connection to Flint, Marko and Jimmy Addison, but their poor neighborhood is raided also under orders from Mayor Morris. In order to protect the people of the neighborhood, Flint, Marko and Lonnie Lincoln use their powers against the cops. Robbie takes photos of the police attack and the powered individual. He tries to sell the story to his former editor, Howard Walters, at the Daily Bugle. He buys the story, but has it rewritten to be sympathetic to the police instead of what are now dubbed monsters. As they continue their investigation, Janet discovers Addison, Lincoln, and Marko were former prisoners of war, and Ben also finds out Carmody lied about being Kat's husband to gather evidence on the mayor, and what he thought was his mistress, Kat Hardy. Ben realizes it must have been Kat that hired Addison to burn down Silvermane's mansion, as she also set up the meeting with the mayor. Flint Marko briefly considers escaping to live a new life with Kat Hardy, but abandons the idea due to his symptoms worsening further. Kat still tries to leave, but Ben confronts her at Penn Station before Winston captures them. But Ben was playing the long game as he worked for Silvermane. He frames Winston by using marked bills from Silvermane to pay off Vera Addison for her silence. Silvermane shoots and kills his right-hand man Winston, but he cocks the gun and shoots again as the episode ends and the screen goes dark. Very dark, because it was in black and white.
It was. And in colour. It went black.
Yes, exactly. There was no white in that final shot.
There wasn't.
Just black, just dark.
Absolutely. And the shot going out. I just thought that would be a nice ending for your synopsis there, John.
It was.
Good way to end it when we...
Exactly.
I just think that's a really good way to end your synopsis there, John, because it feels like, and coming next week to the serial for you,
Well, it's a nice cliffhanger, isn't it, really?
Yeah, like it.
To be honest. Ooh, who might that be? Mm-hmm. Is it Ben? Is it Kat? Mm-hmm. Is it someone else?
Is it Vera?
Is it Pudge? Is it Tudge?
I don't think Tudge was one of
I keep wanting to call them Podge and Rodge now. That's the problem. Who were two puppets that were on Irish television, but they also made it to Channel 4. So even though I didn't necessarily start with them, they were on Channel 4.
Did Podge and Rodge actually make it over to Channel 4? They're the same guys
so.
that
It was
did
with
Zig
Chris
and Zag.
Evans or whatever.
No, it's the same guys that did Zig and Zag.
It is Zig and Zag.
Yeah, but they didn't have...
I'm thinking Zig and Zag then.
Yeah, they were very big over here, though. They're very big in Ireland.
They look very similar, though.
Zig and Zag were aliens and very colourful, and Podge and Rodge looked like they came from a black and white era. Were very, very cruel. They were much more adult characters, to be honest. But they were.
Then I'm confusing
puppets.
them with Zig and Zag.
I think you might be.
Yes.
I think you might be. I'll show you some of the more interesting Podge and Rodge.
We certainly didn't have Dustin the turkey.
You didn't have Dustin the turkey.
Not that I remember anyway.
Until the Eurovision, everybody had Dustin.
Well,
all
yeah,
across
exactly. Indeed, they did, and it was hilarious.
But enough about Irish puppets. Let's move on to a little bit of puppeteering by the mayor and a little bit of puppeteering by Ben in this episode as well.
Yes, he is pulling the strings like a marionette performer.
Yes.
Kind of really like the long form of Ben's kind of plan here, really.
Yeah, I think with that reveal at the end of the episode and how it all played out, I think this might be my favourite episode of the season so far. Really liking it. But we are going to go to our format, John. We talk about it in our web shot. So let's kick off with our web shot number 1. Yes, episode opens with our web shot number 1, which is hired by Silvermane. What a great way to open this. As last week's episode, we had Janet and the office being roughed up by Silvermane's heavies, and here he is arriving at the front door with them in tow. asking for Ben's help or telling Ben he's going to need him to be working for him, and telling his guys that they're going to have to apologize to Janet for what they did.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the apology element.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I do like the fact that as Silvermane goes into Ben's office, she's like, well, I'm still waiting for that apology. When am I going to get it? And they're looking at one another. So I don't think I heard them say sorry, but
I didn't, no.
I hope they did deliver the apology to Janet, because she deserved it after that roughing up.
She did, but what I also like about Janet is she likes making them squirm, making these heavy guys, hard guys, think that they're going to have to apologize to her because Silvermane told them to, so they're going to probably have to. But I like that she made them squirm. I would say anybody else that arrives in the office is offered tea or a coffee with a bit of whiskey in it, but they get no such offer from Janet at all.
Absolutely. They really don't.
No, they don't. But Silvermane's here to hire Ben to work for him. Speaking of whiskey, I think we could do a whiskey watch on almost every single point in this episode, because we have in our opening here our first of our whiskey watches for the episode. Labelless, probably homemade whiskey is given by Ben to Silvermane, and I love how Brendan Gleeson plays this throughout, where he kind of takes a little sip of it, and then you just see it hitting the back of his throat, and he almost throws up.
This is the
time.
rough stuff,
It is.
absolutely. Potentially, it might be bourbon, so it would be rougher.
It probably would.
Or a little more fiery. Given the whiskey watch, which will come up later in the episode.
Yes, very different.
Which does happen to be one of my favourite whiskies. So it is kind of interesting here. Just having that nice little pitter-patter between Ben and Silvermane, the main protagonists of this show, or at least some of them. But Silvermane looking for Ben's help. I've got a job for you, basically to find the rat in his organization. After the tip off to the cops, the NYPD, to arrest him with the shipment of illegal booze. And I do like how this sets up the episode, really, where you have Silvermane saying, people lie, only money tells the truth.
Absolutely.
Follow the money kind of thing, which is, very well-known saying, but I just like how it applies here, and I like how that following the retainer and the initial payment by Silvermane, Ben is quick enough to realize that he marks his bills.
Yes.
And he's also going to give a bonus if he solves the case as well.
Absolutely.
So not just this $100 sort of retainer and additional, initial cash up front, but also I think a bonus.
I think he's just looking at $100 bill, but I think there's a few others in that envelope that he gives as a retainer. So he's being paid very well for this. Like, Janet even questions it. She kind of says, "Hang on a second, the way you settle this whole situation is we're now working for him." That's not what I was expecting, but this is a way around it. And again, by the end of the episode, you realize he's playing a whole game here. So he's using every trick in the book. I really like seeing this for Ben's character in this episode. He is a private investigator. That's the big difference between him and all the other Spider-Men out there in the multiverse. Yeah. This character is a private investigator, and we see a couple of times him making investigative leaps that only someone who is good at their job makes. And you even see Janet's reaction to that, and Ben going to her, "Well, I do have this job for a reason,
Yeah.
So,
no, absolutely. Yeah. I love how
That's
some of these come to the fore in this episode. I think the other interesting little thing here is we have Silvermane arriving and saying, Finn Byrne, actually giving his real name here. Yeah. So Finbar Byrne, which is kind of interesting, because I wondered what he was saying initially, and then I was like, oh no, that's actually his name. Yeah. That's Finbar Byrne. So good to get his real name, not just his street name.
Well, exactly.
Or boss name.
He's not really called Silvermane. Yes, and Finbar Byrne would be a very Irish name, of course. And we've mentioned Brendan Gleeson really playing up his Irish accent throughout the early episodes. We talked about Silvermane from the comic books back at the start of the season. And just to mention again, the other reason why Silvermane had the name was because he had silver hair. in black and white, it stands out really well on Brendan Gleeson. Have got a silver mark through his hair. And that was the joke earlier on in the season from Ben going, do you think he likes being called Silvermane because he's got a silver streak through his hair? So interestingly, in the comic books, the character's not called Finn Byrne, he's called Silvio Manfredi, which would be a very quick link between Silvermane and Silvio Manfredi, right? That's a very close link between those two
Absolutely.
things. Not just because he's got a silver streak in his hair.
And of course, hailing from the Italian organised crime families rather than the Irish organised crime families.
Exactly, yes.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, so a bit different. I think that's it for our first web shot, John.
Yeah, let us get into our web shot number 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hospital visit.
Yes.
By Officer Batnick, no less, from the Officers Benevolent Association.
Do you think Nicolas Cage chose the name of this character because we know he is a very big Batman fan, and we know he's a very big investigative fan. Part of the reason why he's on board here for Spider-Man Noir rather than just a regular Spider-Man role is because he really likes that Dark Knight Batman quality. So instead of Batman, it's Batnick. That's the character name.
Maybe. You do wonder, but it's a nice little kind of montage here that happens.
Yeah.
In the hospital.
It could, of course, just be a play on Beatnik.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, but I like how it kind of comes in, plays nice and fanciful with the non-nurse effectively, and is like finds out that it's Patrolman Jones is the first person, so it's kind of starting at the base of the triangle.
Yeah.
Talks to Patrolman Jones about, well, you're kind of like the cannon fodder. You get in, rush in first. You're the one facing all the bullets, which leads to, well, who told you to get down there? It was like Sergeant Miller. So we have him with Sergeant Miller, and it's like, who told you to go where? And it ends up being with Lieutenant Dunn. And it ends up with him saying, well, we had only hours to prep, rather than weeks or days, because it was coming from the higher up. So it was the chief, and that was coming ultimately from Mayor Morris.
Directly from the mayor's office.
It's like, I like this notion that Ben Reilly is starting to sort of form this picture of maybe the magnitude of the problems or potential adversary that Silvermane is finding. He's kind of setting it in context around who the rat might be, but it's someone who can go direct to Mayor Morris effectively.
Yeah.
Here. So but I just liked how it kind of played out, where he's presenting himself as this officer of the Benevolent Association in order to sort of, help them pay for their medical, to help them sort of get some compensation because it's the person higher up who's at fault here.
Yeah.
Kind of just, it felt a little like the John Cleese, and the Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett, sketch of, I look up at him because I am lower class. I look down on him, kind of thing. Do you know? It had that quality about it. I can see that. That kind of well-known comedy sketch that happened with those three comedians.
Yeah, I think that was John Cleese's first appearance on TV with the two Ronnies.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in my notes, I've written down Patrolman Jones shoulder, Sergeant Miller leg, Dunn ass, which is where each of them got shot to put them into this hospital. Really like this, and I know there's a reference here, and I'm sure people will be shouting at me for not getting it. It's how Nicolas Cage talks to each of them. He uses a really old school impression of a character from noir movies. I can't remember whether it's the Humphrey Bogart one or not, so I'm outing myself that I don't know it well enough. But as he's talking, he's going, "You're sitting there, and you're the one that gets the directions from the higher up. See?" And just the way he says "see" at the end of every sentence, I know that's a reference to some old noir movies from the 40s and 50s, and I just couldn't find it because searching up the word "see" at the end of a sentence in noir movies, it got me nothing on Google. So sometimes you need better Googling skills than I have. So if you do know the answer to that, who is he referencing? What's the impression? Email us into feedback@tvpodcast.
Absolutely.
I'd love to know.
But it does feel very sort of like
oh, I've heard it. Like, I mean, I
Yeah,
genuinely I can
agreed.
hear the voice he's doing, but I just don't know who it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels immediately familiar.
Mhm.
Like, it's really well done.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of almost like the start of his kind of investigation here, because not only is he sort of setting in context, but he does go to visit Kat Hardy, where he effectively confronts her, saying that she's in deep fraternizing with Morris, when he's looking to end prohibition, which would go against Silvermane's interests. Yeah. In a sense, Kat Hardy, as this investigation goes on, it is seen to be the sort of crucible at which all these things pass through, whether it is with seeing her meeting with Mayor Morris. We do have Carmody back here as well, where he is found out that he is basically a smut merchant, I think is how he's described by Ben Reilly. Yeah. But it basically says, I got a tip off that Mayor Morris was meeting with a lady, a club singer, during an election year. It would be, good money making.
Yeah. So he was going to take the photos and sell them to the highest bidder.
So not the woman's husband at all. And it's all kind of this little crucible around Kat Hardy coming from a few things here.
Absolutely. And again, confirming what both Ben and Janet thought when Carmody had arrived at the office in that first episode. Who the hell is this guy? There's no way he's married to someone as gorgeous as Kat. But I do love another great Nicolas Cage moment when he's talking to the drunk guy on the side of the street, trying to find out where Carmody is, and the description of him that he gives. There's no way you could possibly connect it to any human being. Just he talks about his smell, and he talks about the fact that he's overweight, but there's no real way that the guy could have guessed. But he does. He guesses exactly who the person is. And also, I much prefer your notes, because what I've got in my notes is you're talking about the crucible the cat's in. I've got Ben learns the cat's the rat and he needs a diversion.
Exactly.
Cat is the rat, John.
Technically, Cat is the rat, yes. Or crucible, I guess.
Much better.
I just thought I'd say it that way. But I think mainly because Ben knows this, no one else really has figured it out at this stage.
Exactly.
I think, though, the other thing we do get the sense here is that Winston, has his nose a little bit out of joint. Absolutely. Because Silvermane has asked someone else to discover the rat in the organization, and not his right-hand man.
Yes.
Not his kind of enforcer and investigator within the organization. Yeah. So I kind of like that notion as well.
Yeah, I love that idea, because straight off you've got Winston knowing that he's in the crosshairs as well, right?
Exactly.
If you don't trust your right-hand man to investigate, that means you suspect your right-hand man might be involved. And that's set up from the beginning, especially with Ben having the conversation with Silvermane as well. He talks to him about it and kind of says, well, if someone comes to you and says they have all of the answers, then you might suspect that it's them rather than somebody else, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
So setting things up from the start. But yeah, when he realizes it's Kat who is the rat, he does need a bit of cover. So he goes and pays a visit to Vera, Addison once again, who's still spending her now dead husband's ill-gotten gains in the hotel, but looking for a bit more. And she does connect the dots when Ben's talking to her.
Yeah.
And then asks for, $1,000 to keep quiet. That seems like a lot of money back in the 33.
I
right?
would say it is,
especially the Depression.
Yeah,
as well.
I would say it's a huge amount of money. But I like that she plays him. It feels like it's probably how she's played her own husband over the years. Because Ben effectively tells her to leave town because she's connected the dots, because he then tells her that it's Kat.
Much, yeah.
If it helps, she says, well, why don't I just tell Silvermane? I can go to him and tell Silvermane. Yeah. So I kind of like that she plays this little game with him, and he then offers the $1,000.
Yep. Another very smart woman, another very smart femme fatale here, I guess.
Yeah.
In the show. Yeah, very cool.
And I think then the really interesting thing is that at Silvermane's apartment there, at the top of the hotel where he's staying, you have this conversation between Ben and Silvermane where he says, you know who it is, don't you? And Ben says to Silvermane, it doesn't matter what I know until I can prove it. I do like it when people talk about entropy, and Silvermane talks about, how the universe moves to disorder. All I'm trying to do is keep the chaos from my door for as long as possible, because he works in a very, very dangerous profession.
Certainly does.
And needs to keep that chaos from the door, because his world just moves to disorder with the blood, the violence, and the name of the game. Plus, we also do get the other whiskey watch.
We do, yes.
And he says, do you fancy a bit of the green spot? And that is green spot whiskey, I presume he's referring to. Whether green spot was around then, I'm not entirely sure.
Really?
I just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean is Jameson's or like Tullow or Powers, all these different whiskies, like absolutely. I think even like Redbreast maybe was a reimagining of an older label that was brought back.
Right.
So maybe Green Spot is as well. Or it was, it's been mainstreamed more, whatever it is.
Yeah. I'm guessing.
But it's a great whiskey.
Yeah, I'm guessing someone like Silvermane will have his connections. And remember, he's in the illegal alcohol trade, the illegal liquor trade. So he may be getting stuff directly delivered from his home country directly to him. So so getting an Irish whiskey in as something as special as Green Spot seems like something you could do.
Yes, and there's a nice connection then into the next episode, which we'll talk about on the next episode. But it makes a lot of sense given the whiskey.
Spoil this for the next
I
episode.
know. Well, no.
Not really.
Intrigue for the next episode.
I like it, John. Hey, we're living up to the noir aspect of the show ourselves. I do want to talk about one great shot that's in there as well when Silvermane is standing on the balcony with Ben and they're chatting away about, the danger in their lives, basically. Yeah. Behind them, it looks like Central Park, but not the Central Park we know now. Central Park back in the 30s when Depression era has just kicked in, and it looks like there's a lot of different shantytowns effectively been set up in Central Park. And look at the skyline itself of New York is very different to what we know today, with massive high rises only just being built around the time of the Depression. So it's a lot flatter than we see now, but the park itself also looks like it's got lots of camps in it, which becomes important later on in the episode. But I just thought it was interesting to see it in the skyline in that scene.
Yeah,
as well,
no, absolutely,
absolutely, very cool.
Great stuff. Derek, shall we get on to our web shot number 3?
That's not the only visit in the episode that Ben pays to Silvermane. So our web shot number 4 is the spider enters Silvermane's lair. While he's there on the balcony having the chat with Silvermane, Ben locks the door open using his webbing so he can come back later that night and crawl through the house of Silvermane. What a cool scene this is. I loved it in black and white, particularly as you see just the eyes of the spider while he's attached
almost
to the
acting
roof.
like little headlights. I really enjoyed that. That made a lot of sense for a detective as well. I mean, it's kind of also just that really early edition version of what we see with the Stark pimping out of the spider suit with all the different interface, and the electronic hood that Stark gives to Peter Parker with the new Spidey suit. So I really like how that's almost like version 0.1
minus 6,
exactly. We'll give him lights, at least so he can see in the dark. But
it also looks really like the pulp comic books, and just that idea of the really white on really black, the contrast between both of those.
Absolutely,
really reminded me of Sin City as well.
Exactly,
that
that to me was where that kind of Sin City sort of aesthetic really popped here. And we see him using his bat sense as well to open up the safe in Silvermane's apartment so that he can get some of those marked bills, specifically as well, so that he can also get his $1,000 that he's going to pay Vera in with marked bills.
Exactly.
So I really enjoyed this. I also liked the little moment where he basically gets Frankie the kid to act as his decoy as well, because he is being followed by Silvermane's and Winston's informants.
Yep.
So I just like the fact that he's kind of on a chair, he's got the trilby, he's got the coat.
Well, yeah, not just that. He basically tells Frankie to pretend to be him. You know,
exactly.
smoke a cig, drink whiskey, be cool, be me.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cool.
So yeah, that was really good fun.
Absolutely, and the fact that Frankie's listening to a radio drama, which is, you know, welcoming all detective kids along, so he's able to stay up late at night, pretend to be the detective and listen into the detective show, because he's still a kid at the end of the day. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Really enjoyed that. And yeah, just as we have Ben looking to leave the penthouse, he accidentally knocks the door, and Silvermane wakes up. His guys come in, and then we have another great moment of the spider stuck to the ceiling of the apartment.
Yeah, above the four-poster bed.
Yeah,
sort of. Cool. So he's also hidden by the canopy.
Yeah.
We do have Silvermane looking onto the bed with his gun. Yeah. But yeah, no, really nice scene, this, I think, with the spider entering Silvermane's lair. Shall we get into Web Shot 4?
Absolutely. Yes, Web Shot 4, Monsters at Large. This was the other element of the episode. This is going right back to the beginning of the episode, where we learn a bit about the investigative skills of Ben. It was really obvious to him and nobody else. He just thinks about it for a second, with the photograph of the three guys, Addison, Lincoln and Flint Marko. The photograph of the three of them together, he kind of went, well, hang on a second, it's World War One. These three men couldn't possibly have been in the same company because of segregation at the time.
Yeah.
They definitely wouldn't have been together. So he realizes that the only reason why these guys could be together is because maybe they're POWs, right?
So, absolutely. Being prisoners of war. Yeah. So, that was a nice little moment where him and Janet and Robbie are sort of looking at this photo. Robbie leaves before Silvermane arrives here, and ends up heading off to try and find Lonnie Lincoln again, to find more on Flint Marko, how he knows him, what's the association, try and back up, confirm, validate Ben's investigative skills here. And he finds himself sort of in the middle of a police raid on the kind of illegal camps or slums that have built up in New York during the Depression, and which have been cleared by the cops from on high. Again, another order of Mayor Morris. Maybe because he knows Silvermane is recruiting people from here, or that he is also looking for Flint or Addison or even Lonnie. So we have Robbie coming in to investigate, but this is where we see that Lonnie Lincoln also has superpowers.
Yes, we do. So I didn't catch it at first glance. Lonnie Lincoln is a character kind of known in the comic books, kind of well known in the comic books. He's usually referred to by the name Tombstone, but he was also in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, that animated series that we watched last year. I think the second season of that's coming up soon. And the character is called Lonnie Lincoln in that show, so I should have guessed who he was the second we saw his name, but I just don't know the character well enough. But he's been in the Spider-Man video game, he's been in that animated series and loads of other animated shows over the years, so I definitely should have recognized who Tombstone or Lonnie Lincoln was. But I do love that we have the back-to-back team up of the two of these guys, Lincoln and Marko, as they both expose their powers to the world effectively under the watchful photographic gaze of Robbie as he's taking the photographs of the police coming in to beat them all.
I like the camera work there of Robbie taking the pictures, also having to step out from a few police truncheons as well, because they're going after everyone here. So yeah, the focus becomes about Lonnie and Flint, because that's where the main attack or defense of this camp is coming from.
Yeah.
But equally, there is Robbie Robertson, who is a black man in this camp, probably for game for the cops in this era as well.
Absolutely. And like he's shouting, going, no, I'm a reporter, and they don't care, given how recently the World War would have happened, him claiming that he's a reporter in this zone, taking photographs from the newspaper, as recently as World War One, if you say that, you're treated in a very different way than people who are participating in a riot, aren't you? You're usually taken off to the side as a reporter, right? But here he's about to get attacked. If it wasn't for a body being thrown across the whole area, one of the cops being thrown across the whole area by Lonnie, he would have been beaten with a truncheon,
Yeah.
But that's not where it ends for him. He takes all the photographs, he writes up the story, and he goes back to his old job at the Bugle. I think we'd speculated in episode 2 that he used to work for the Bugle, as he does in regular comic book stories. And here he talks to editor Walters, the guy he used to work for in the past, and tries to sell him this story, something brand new. In the past, he used to be able to sell the stories of the Spider, and everybody loved it. It sold the papers off the shelves. And here he has photographs of 2 brand new supers, who are protecting people in these Hoovervilles, that they're called, the slums that have been established in New York. He's got all the photographs. He's got all the story here. He sells it to Walters. Walters seems really interested in it, but when he tries to push him a little bit about maybe he gets his old desk back or his old job back so he can do even more stories like this, Walters seems very non-committal of that, doesn't he?
Absolutely. It suddenly feels like a segregation or a race issue again here.
Yeah.
I like how this show it is absolutely pulling on these points, that it's not just doing kind of the Depression or, the 20s, 30s from, a white person's point of view, because there was the diversity even back then, and so I kind of like this. I think, you really get the sense that Robbie really wasn't kept on after the Spider finished, or was fired, or was just let go because effectively he was black. And it's even, there's just this nice touch where Walters kind of just says, close the door on the way out, and Robbie just leaves it open. And again, there's just kind of a sense here that maybe Robbie didn't hear him, or whether he was just making his point.
Oh, no, Robbie definitely heard him. He asks him, what did you say you wanted? And he said closed, and Robbie leaves it open as he walks out the door. There's been some major problem with these guys, and probably stems back to what happened after the Spider hung up his mask, but also there feels like there's an underlying tension there, purely from the race of Robbie as well. So again, glad they're not avoiding that, and they're actually talking about it in the show as well. So I'm sure we'll see more of that.
I think exactly. And just coming back to Hooverville, the name of the camp that is raided by the cops. So at the time, I think the president was Herbert Hoover. So during the onset of the Depression, famously the Hoover Dam is named after Herbert Hoover as well. The big dam there on the Colorado River. Nice little touch.
Yeah, a vacuum cleaner's named after him as well.
Possibly. I suspect not. I suspect that could be from another person called Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover?
No,
not him either. Okay, right. I'm sure we'll find out at some point. Very good. Yes, it's just a really nice touch that they're calling them these Hoovervilles, that which would be correct for the time as well. But the story is bought by Walters, Robbie's story, and then when he reads it in the newspaper, they've changed all the words. They've rewritten everything that he'd written to be much more favorable to the cops. I think the headline is "Monsters Among Us," something like that. And the whole story is about the police going in to help out all of the impoverished citizens from the attack by these 2 supervillains. Effectively, yeah,
absolutely. And I think there's 2 things from this. Is not only do we see that Robbie's article has been completely changed by Walters, again, another sign of disrespect from him, but also we have the mayor wanting to get a direct line to the Spider. He asks Ben Reilly to get him in touch with the Spider because of these other soups around, also to help with his, I guess, re-election, maybe. But also the notion of monsters, I think the interesting kind of little flip on that happens here as well is we do have Cat and Flint coming back together here for a very brief moment. But and for me, this was like this really typical. It's the love story,
yes,
the tragic love story between the two. It starts off in this moment, in the scene, as hopeful, I don't care, leave with me, go pack a bag, and he's all going to do it. He wants to do it, and then he starts to turn into sand again on his fists as he holds her. His condition seems to possibly be getting worse, but that's when he says, no, it's a fantasy that I could have this life, that I could have you. It felt very Gone with the Wind in terms of the way it was done. It was a really nice little moment, but ultimately...
frankly... Cat, he did give it down.
Yes, well, exactly. But just this notion that Cat and Flint, it is a tragic love story here for the two of them because of his condition.
Absolutely. There's always been something in the Spider-Man kind of mythos in the comic books and in the villain creation that when they get created, usually by an experiment gone wrong, that it affects their brain chemistry as well. It's always been something in much more in, I think anyway, in the Spider villains, so we kind of see that a little bit here with Flint, that, as he's changing and realizing that he can't just be a man, he's going to turn into sand. He seems to get more angry and a bit more aggressive as well. It's like he's not in his right mind when he's transforming into the Sandman.
Yeah.
And we saw that with the other Flint Marko that we saw in the Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire ones. Their version of Sandman seems to be quite similar and very focused on one thing and not willing to listen to what anybody else's opinion is. It always seems to be that his mind seems to be a little bit broken by what's happened to him.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like that they've kind of kept that thread there. Hey, it's Spider-Man. They got to keep the threads going, right?
Yeah. Shall we keep our web shot threads going with web shot number 5?
Yes, our final web shot. The rat gets it. Or does he? Or does she? Yes, the complex plan that Ben has been weaving finally kind of comes through and works. So we have Ben going to the Penn Station where he sees Kat's there and trying to talk her out of leaving the city and finding out what's happening with her. But Winston finds the two of them together and brings them along with him to meet Silvermane and finally meet their end, as he thinks anyway. There's a great moment in this as well, the car conversation that they have with Winston in the front and Ben and Kat in the back, where it's all being conducted with the mirror on the screen. It just looks so cool. It's a really awesome shot. I love it, just because of how it's all framed together. But when they arrive at Silvermane's, Ben kind of reiterates what he says about what he had said about the man with all the answers may be the one responsible. And from that point onwards, he's setting up Winston to be the one to take the fall, and I love it as everything unfolds. Everything from the money that he gave to Vera, who's also been brought to this location.
Yes,
that being marked.
She looks petrified.
She does, absolutely.
Really, it's really good. Yeah. It's really well done. Actually, it's classic as well. It's, I don't know, bushes somewhere, open grave has been dug for one person. I like as well. He references, people lie, only money tells the truth. That Ben Reilly kind of fires that back out also at Silvermane, as he sort of utilizes both the robbery from Silvermane's safe with an earlier moment where he has a conversation with Winston. And in that moment, Ben greets him as, "Hiya, Mr. Whiskers," i.e. the rat. This is kind of where Winston is, in a sense, almost marking his territory, that Ben's coming in here and he's like, well, I don't care who you find, what you find, how you investigate. I don't care, no matter who the person's favorite singer is, come to me first. But ultimately, in this moment, Winston feels it's Cat, thinks that's where it will lead. That's where his suspicion is telling Ben Reilly, will come to me first. And, in a sense, working together. That's how it's leaves. I mean, Ben Reilly does rile him up a bit, but Winston gives him some cash.
Well, he riles him up to get a bit of pay,
the cash,
you know?
so that he can get the bills Silvermane gives to Winston marked in a particular way, so that he knows that it is Winston's bills.
Yeah.
Then it gets threaded into the 1,000, into Vera Addison's $1,000 payout.
Yeah.
So in the dark, in the bushes, it looks as though Winston has paid her off.
Well, yeah, and particularly because Ben's marked all of her $1,000 with exactly the same way that Silvermane would have, which I love. You know, I do love this idea of there's so many people that Silvermane pays off, and to know which ones of the closest people to him that he can trust. He marks them all with a different way. He marks Kat's one way. He marks Winston's another way. I'm sure he marks all the rest of his men in different ways as well. Loads of them would never have even noticed that all their bills are marked the same way, but the smarts of Ben has picked that out, and has that's allowed him to find proof and evidence that Winston was the one responsible, even though he knows that's Kat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really
so
cool. Love the reveal. This is just excellent throughout the episode that Ben has been working this whole angle.
I love the way that Ben also just plays Silvermane in this moment, because Silvermane is a wily cat. You know, he is he's so suspicious that he becomes clever almost because of it.
Yeah.
Because he's always thinking of the angles of the deception that may come on him from someone else. So, like, he's hugely sort of alert in that sense to the danger.
Yeah.
So I just like how he talks him round, as I say, by ultimately giving back to Silvermane what Silvermane had already suggested Ben goes for. So he allows Winston to just have that conversation at the start.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's the man, as you say, here's the guy with all the information.
Exactly.
And then with the money. So yeah. Great stuff. And I do like that it leaves, kind of ends there with Silvermane saying, can you dig another hole, as his gun goes off again.
As he cocks and shoots again, yeah.
So I eventually knew who it was before we watched the other, the fourth episode. But initially I assumed it was Vera, because Silvermane had asked, Ben to dig the new grave.
Exactly.
And the shot went off immediately after. Yeah. So he wouldn't have had time to dig the grave. So yeah,
True, yeah.
it would be, but then it is, I think we can come to the spoil of that when we cover episode 4.
Next episode, exactly.
Indeed.
Exactly. I think that's it for our main points on the episode. Any notes that you wanted to mention, John, that we didn't get the chance to talk about?
No notes from me for this episode.
The only one I wanted to mention is just, I love Ben at the supposedly broken payphone where the lady comes up and he's like, it's a public phone. Sorry, it's broken. You know, it's the second one I've seen this morning as he eats a massive sandwich going, there's one over by the sandwich shop that's broken too. And then the phone rings and he gets the phone call from Janet to give him directions to where he's going to next. And then just looks at the lady eating the mouthful of sandwich and finishes the mouthful of sandwich and goes, I lied, and walks off. It's classic.
Absolutely.
Really enjoyed that.
Really good. Absolutely.
And we've already gone through all of our whiskey watches, I think,
we have.
for the episode. Lots and lots of whiskey drunk in this episode. Some absolutely horrible and some top quality.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah.
Great stuff. So, John, do you defend this episode of Spider-Noir, episode 3, Double Cross?
Yeah, I really do. I give this 5 sleuthing spiders out of 5. I just love the whole setup and premise of it. Proper detective work, planned out, teed up by Ben Reilly, so that, in a sense, Silvermane, at least in this moment, takes it hook, line, and sinker. So I really enjoyed this. I love the elements between Flint, Marko, and Kat as well. That tragic love piece between the two of them. Not too sure what he's going to do now, but, you know, it'll be interesting to see that moving forward. I love the bombshell at the end with who's being caught by the second shot from Silvermane. You have a really good moment with Frankie, the kid, acting out as the decoy.
Absolutely.
As the spider is sneaking into Silvermane's lair in the Hillcrest Hotel penthouse. All of this to me is just really, it just flows nicely through the episode, whether it's the montage of Officer Batnick from the Benevolent Association to Robbie going after trying to find Lonnie Lincoln again, but getting embroiled with the camp clearance, and again meeting the fairly unsavory editor of the Bugle, Walters. So yeah, absolutely defend this episode. Give it 5 sleuthing spiders out of 5.
Very good.
Derek, do you defend this episode?
I kind of revealed my hand pretty early on in this episode. Just how it plays out, I think it's my favourite episode so far this season. The first couple of episodes have been about, can we do a noir movie in the Marvel world? And now this is just telling us how good a detective or how good an investigator Ben Reilly is in this world, where he can be the spider at night and Ben Reilly during the day, maybe keep him off the booze and he could actually be productive in both sides of society.
Well, agreed.
But yeah, really enjoyed this episode. Loved Nicolas Cage throughout the show, but all the actors here have been fantastic. And I love the backdrop of what's happening around Depression era. New York is really cool as well. So lots of great stuff in this episode. Yeah, top quality. Absolutely defend this episode.
Excellent stuff.
Well, let's hear from our wonderful fellow defenders. First up, we got an email in from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow segregated defenders. Racism, misogyny, institutionalized discrimination, violence against the disenfranchised, another point for accuracy to the era or current day commentary. This title, theme, Lonnie Lincoln, tight story, continued world building, plot twists, reveals, and a last second cliffhanger from doubtful project to one of the best streaming features this year. Completely immersive. The fight scene, interchange between Ben and the kid, Flint and Kat's near reunion. It's hard to pick out a singular best scene or moment, but episode MVP has to be Richard Robichaud's Howard Walters, editor-in-chief, as the only villainous presence who completely raised my ire. So far, so good. 5 rock gut grimaces, laid up dockside cops, and shantytown shakedowns out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka."
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Yes, the last second cliffhanger, really good. I think I called it a bombshell, which would be a reveal. So yeah. Anyway, cliffhanger. That's what I meant. Yeah. It is really immersive. I completely agree with you on that point. I think it's both really good entertainment, but it's also, there is a great bit of commentary going on in here as well. Definitely. It looks superb, and it, in both colour and black and white, and just really enjoying how this is ticking along.
Yeah, definitely. It took me a second to catch Coffee Vodka's first 5 out of 5 rock gut grimaces, because that would be the really cheap ass whiskey that he was given by Ben as rock gut, right? So very good. I like that, Coffee Vodka. Yeah, I'm learning.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Absolutely. Let's head on over to Discord. Joe Herbst says, in episode 2, there was a lot of smoking. In episode 3, so much drinking.
And someone said there was a depression.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, Joe.
Smoking and booze weren't taxed, really, since it was Prohibition era as well. So, there'd be getting really bad alcohol from and probably able to pay nothing for it, and everybody smoked at the time, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent stuff. Also on Discord, Dr. Bob says, "So being around a spider or his alter ego is clearly bad for your health. Encouragements for smoking in street kids and incitement to murder in forest parties, together with the consumption of far too much whiskey and insufficient fruits, not to mention the complete absence of sunscreen, make this hero one of the public health doctors will certainly be railing against. The pacing is superb, the consistency of overacting just spot on, and the mimicry of the filming of the time. If I've got it right, which fairly obvious in-studio projection of street scenes for the car journey, scenery, forests, and optically questionable magnifying glasses are a joy.
Oh yeah, I love that little touch, Dr. Bob, the magnifying glass on the eyeball where it's projected as if it's like 7 times larger than Ben's head. That was really good fun.
Yeah. Even on the balcony with the matte painting behind.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still CGI or something, but it's just it looks of that era.
It does.
It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly lots of vices around in the old 30s.
There was.
But thanks so much, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, I don't think many public health doctors would be fans of Ben or the Spider at all.
In fact, they were probably being sold as health, like things like smoking.
Well, it keeps down the appetite. I suppose.
What's the one in the bar? The walnut plug.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
I think that was chewing tobacco though. No?
Yeah, but it also is like helps you breathe, like because you're sucking it. Yeah,
I suppose in the era of the Depression and all the works going on in New York, it's probably safer for you to be smoking than it was breathing the actual air that was going on around in the Industrial Revolution.
The highly sooty combustion engines going around. Yeah.
Now, not that we're advocating for that, but
absolutely.
at the time, it's 100 years ago. So, thanks so much, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob.
And finally, over on Facebook, Russell Hooper says, how did Spider get his powers? I'm guessing it was a spider bite, but what made the spider special? Sure, it wasn't radioactive. And does he use mechanical web shooters, or is it natural like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man? If we have early Sandman and Human Torch, does this make Silvermane the early Kingpin? Interesting questions, Russell. A lot of this is the purpose of the show, I guess, or the story that they're going to tell in the show. You know, the investigation that's going on in the background about the POWs and where these guys all got their powers, how they all know each other. And we have already heard so far in the show that Ben Reilly was also over in Germany or in Europe during World War I as well. So we haven't heard how he got his powers over there, but yeah, entirely possible that he got bitten by a spider while in Europe as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, they're all saying that their powers only came out about 6 months ago, whereas we know Ben's powers were out 5 years ago, right? Because he hung up being the Spider 5 years ago and had been that
so it was even
in
before
New York
that.
for a while.
Yeah,
so yeah,
exactly.
But it could have happened while he was in Europe as well. So
I mean, his web shooters look more natural, shall I say? Yeah. So I have a feeling it could be coming from his body, but I don't know. We haven't really seen that yet.
It does seem like it though, because remember, he didn't prepare the first time we saw him as the Spider. He didn't prepare by putting anything on. When he was fighting against Flint Marko, he falls off the building and then uses his web shooters to catch himself. Sorry, they're not web shooters. Excuse me. He uses the webbing that seems to come out of his body to get himself back up the building.
Well, then
so that looks like it's natural, like Tobey Maguire's. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So we have one of your questions answered, and I'd say the rest of them will be answered on the rest of the season.
I mean, Silvermane probably is kind of like an early Kingpin, but certainly there is the comic book thread here to Silvio Manfredi.
Exactly. Silvermane is an early Silvermane. Yeah. So, that's just another character. There were lots and lots of street level criminals over the years in Spider-Man. So they've taken a different one in this case.
I mean, in terms of getting his powers, it'll be interesting to see what makes the spider special or how that actually works. Because certainly, whilst there wasn't nuclear power plants or the atomic bomb at the time, there was a lot of work going on at that time in physics, theoretical physics, and there was a knowledge of radioactive materials as well.
Yeah. And remember, we had a mention of the multiverse in the opening of the season, asking what universe he comes from. Maybe the spider came in from another universe.
Maybe fell through.
Maybe it fell
possibly.
Through. It could be that.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. That's a nice one.
I don't know whether that's the way it's going to be, but I do know we have got 5 more episodes to go in the series, and that's definitely one of the stories they're going to tell. Probably in flashback, we're going to see how each of these guys got their powers, and definitely how the spider was created.
Absolutely. Great questions there, Russell. Really looking forward to seeing how they get answered by the show.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Better than by us, I'd say.
Probably, yes.
Absolutely. But thanks so much, Russell, for your thoughts.
Yeah, and thank you to all our fellow defenders for your feedback for episode 3 of Spider-Noir Double Cross. Please remember to send in your feedback on all the other episodes to our email at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, over on our Facebook group, and by voicemail on our website as well, if you want to. But we will be back next time with our chat about the Spider-Noir episode 4, A Mistake I'll Never Make Again. And as I said, we would love to get your thoughts on that episode.
Absolutely, yep. Looking forward to chatting about that later on in the week. And thank you so much, fellow defenders, for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you, fellow defenders. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending.
Bye.
Bye.